last time we've seen how to declare variables, what are the data types in JavaScript, and also we've seen the string literals or the string templates. Today I will start with expressions or operators in JavaScript and then spend most of the time in arrays and functions. So operators, exactly the same as the languages you are already familiar with. You can do arithmetic operations, logical, comparison, assignment, string concatenation. It works exactly the same as Java and C. And it will only stop at things that are unique. One of the things that are unique is when you do equality comparison in JavaScript, you have two operators. You can either do double equal or triple equal. And we will see the difference between the two. Otherwise, the rest of the operators exactly the same as Java or C++. So let me just clear this one here and just give an example here. One, let's say, what do you think this will be output of this expression? Is it true or false? True or false? Okay, let's see what Chrome says. It is true. Why is it true? Why is it considered true? Yeah, basically same value, although different types, it is considered as equal. So if you use double equal, it will ignore the type and compare based on the value. But if you care, if you really care, you want to do strict comparison, both the type should match and the value should match, then which operator should you use? The triple equal. Yes, is clear? That's the only difference. That's the only thing kind of specific to JavaScript. The rest you're already familiar with it from the languages you already know. Okay, the next thing you learn in any language is the conditional statements. You know, remember conditional statement, if certain condition is true, then execute this block, otherwise execute another block, the if-else statement. Exactly the same syntax, it's copy-paste from C and Java. So here is an example. If I have a number, if I want to know whether it's even or odd, I say if the modulus 2 is equal to 0, then it is even, otherwise it is odd. Same syntax, no difference whatsoever. Same thing for the switch statement. Same thing here, the switch based on certain value. In case it is 1, do this and break. If it's 2, do this and break. Exactly the same syntax as Java and C. Now, sorry, there was something here. Now, just be careful. If you have an if condition, and inside here, it is either, let's say, an empty string or 0, or undefined or none, it will be considered false. So these values, if you put these values in an if statement, they will be false. The rest will be true. Okay? So false, of course, is false. 0 is, of course, false. Empty string is considered false. Null is considered false. Undefined is considered false. And a none is also considered false. And we have spent considerable time discussing these three last time. That's it. This is for conditional statements. Nothing new, exactly the same as C and Java. Now for loops. Loops, again, most of it is exactly the same, except there are two versions of loops that are specific to JavaScript. That's what we will focus on. The rest I will just quickly show you just to remind yourself about the syntax. So we have a while loop. A while, if this condition is true, you keep repeating. As long as this condition is true, you keep repeating this block. You have seen it. This is a pre-test loop. You test. If it's true, you go inside, and then you keep repeating as long as the condition is true. This is the post-test loop. You do some work, you test the condition. If it's true, go back and do it again. And there is a for loop. If you know how many times you will repeat something, you can use a for loop, initialize the counter, test. If the condition is true, you go inside, otherwise you exit. and don't forget to update your counter. You already seen this, you know it by heart. These are examples. I am displaying here values, numbers from 0 to 9. Well, as soon as it reaches 10, it will exit the loop. And here another example, I'm doing the factorial of n by looping through from 1 to n, and I'm basically doing the factorial, doing the product of I. Now, the while loop, the do while loop, the for loop, exactly the same as Java and C++ or C. Now, what is unique to JavaScript is these two loops. These ones I really want you to use whenever you have a chance to. Don't use the other loops unless if you really need to. Try to favor these. In general, try to favor the features that are unique to the language, because they are more elegant, much easier to use than the normal features. Okay, so in here, what you can see here, the off loop allows you to iterate through the elements of an array. So you say, for every number in this array, I want you to grab that number and add it to the sum. And basically, I'm doing here the sum of an array. Again, you see this, but this is not how we do the sum of an array in JavaScript. This is just to demonstrate for off. There are much better way of doing the sum of an array in JavaScript that I will show you shortly. So it's very important you study this stuff, and I cannot go through everything. You have to play with this until you are really becomes yours and you really understand it. And you please do so before the lab. So don't come to the lab unprepared, otherwise you will not benefit from it. Plus the lab is graded. Everything you submit will be graded. No assignment. You do it in the lab, finish, submit, and you move on. Okay. Because this course you have to study as you go. Simple as this. Otherwise you will not be able to follow. All right, it's good for you, good for everybody. This is by experience. We didn't come with this model just like this. This is a practical course that you need to study as you go. Okay, so I want to try this. Very simple. I can go here, paste it, and basically there is some error here, some already defined. Okay, and as you can see, it works as expected. You can go ahead and play with it, change this, rewrite it yourself until it becomes you're really familiar with it. Okay. The other type of loop that is specific to JavaScript is the for in loop. So for of is usually used with lists such as arrays to loop through and iterate through each element of a list. Now the for in loop is used with objects. Let's say you received an object from the net, or you read it from a file, and you don't know what's in this object. You can basically discover it and go through it and extract each property in that object. So have a look here. What this line is doing, the first line here. So I'm declaring an object called obj, and I am basically initializing it with some properties. So to initialize an object, I open my curly brace, and then I put the property name colon value, separated by comma, property name colon value. That's how I create an object in JavaScript. I don't really need to create a class and then instantiate the class and so on. Although I can do that, but I can also create it just on the fly. Grab the properties, put them together in between curly braces, and I have an object at my hand. Now let's say I want to know what are the properties in this object and what are the values of these properties. I can do the for in loop. For each property in this object, go ahead and display for me the property name and the property value. Okay, so if you want to see how these things work, you basically take it here, because I think And basically, this loop, because this object has two properties, this loop discovered this property, and this is its value. And this is the second property, and this is its value. Yes, please. Yes, of course. Yep. Okay. So here, if I say let course, let's say languages equals, sorry, C++, Java, JavaScript. Okay, here are an array. So I will just display it again. Okay, so I can do for off loop. So I'll do for let language, one variable, like one element of this languages of languages, and I do whatever I want to do here. Console.log language. Semicolon, and that's it. Yep. I can do it with list of objects, whatever what is the content of the array could be any type. Yes, please. Yes, a new variable to hold the value of each element. You can it. It's not a good. Is it a good idea to do that? Of course you can, but it's not a good idea at all. Why is that? Why it's not a good idea to declare language variable outside the loop? Not only that. Sorry? Not only that. Kind of. This is more readable, yes, definitely. But more importantly, what's the reason? Basically, a good programming style is you get rid of the variable as soon as you finish using it. So if you declare it inside the loop, then this variable is no longer available once the loop finishes. And this is very good, because if you use some other variable, you might accidentally change it, and some other code depends on that variable. So to really keep your code nicely isolated and not create potential for unwanted changes, you put your variables in a local scope. Okay? So here, if I do console.log language, what do you think I will get? Console.log. What error I will get? Undefined. Which is a good thing. Because if I use a language somewhere else, I might have, basically I'm creating a potential for unwanted changes to my variables. I better declare them locally inside the loop or inside the block. Once the block finish execution, what happened to those variables? Destroy. Also for memory efficiency. You don't hold those variables for longer than needed. You just hold them for the duration of the loop. Yes, please. Yeah.
Display the content of each object.
Yeah.
Need a for in loop inside the for loop.
Unless if you already know properties. So I'll show you this very quickly. I'll give an example. Yes, please. This is an array. Array. Yes. In JavaScript, there are only arrays. There is also set and maps that we will cover shortly. So let me give another example of array of objects. So here is let. So let me just clear this guy. So let students equal. This is how I declare an array. Okay. Maybe I have just for the sake of time. I have some example that has array of objects. Here it is. Just for the sake of time, I will grab this one, and I will explain it and base my explanation on it. Let me just refresh this page so the console will be kind of refreshed. Just for sake of, okay. So what I'm doing here, I'm declaring an array. This is how I declare an array. Initialize it using square brackets. And then inside the array, what do I have? Objects. Each object is delimited by semicolon. And the properties of the object, how do I define them? Name, colon, value, separated by comma. Name, colon, value. This is one student, this is second student, this is the third student. This is an array of objects. Okay, now, if I want to look through this and display, let's say, the name and the course, all I need to do is basically for each student of students. Yes, let's. Thank you. Thank you very much. This is very good. Yes. Why did I put let there? Yeah, to declare. Yes, of course. If I didn't declare it, it will throw at me an error. But also to declare it locally inside this loop. So once the loop is finished, that variable will be destroyed. Very good. So don't forget the let. Yes. Okay. And then I will say here console.log student.name and then student.course. So you see what's going on here? I am looping through each student in the student list and displaying the name of that student and the course belonging to that student. If I know the structure of the object, I don't need to use the for in loop. The for in loop is really useful if you really don't know what the object has. Or dynamically you want to grab some attributes from the object. But if you know the name of the attribute, just go to the object dot notation and put the attribute name, you get the value. Yes, please.
Some objects have maybe one or two attributes more than the others, and I keep and I put all for example, some of them only have two.
Yeah.
Would that create an error?
No errors. By the way, JavaScript is very, very flexible. You will be very, very surprised. Very rare it will be shouting at you. Whatever you throw at it, it will say, okay, I'll do my best and do it. I will show you an example. No problem. What you will get? What you will get? I heard it. Undefined, yes. So hopefully that's, let's see, student GPA. Undefined, undefined, undefined. No error. Now, let me show you another one. If I go here, JavaScript is very flexible. Not that annoying JavaScript, that annoying Java. It's very flexible. In here I can put GPA, let's say 3.6, and the others, they don't have GPA. Oh, sorry, what is the error I put here? Colon, not equal, colon. Okay. Now if I rerun my, you see, the one that has, you get the value. The ones that don't have it, you get undefined. Simple as that. Okay. That's it for the for off loop and the for in loop. Now arrays. You know what arrays are? Sequence of values. In Java and C, they must be the same type. In JavaScript, they don't need to be the same type. Okay? They could be any type. You could mix and match integers with strings, with objects. It doesn't matter because it's a dynamic language. That's the power of the dynamic languages. But you need to be careful. You need to know what you're doing. Okay? You can mix and match if you wish. So here is how you declare an array. So let's, and the name of the array equals, and then you initialize it using the square brackets. And the values are comma delimited. That's it. That's what an array is. This is an array of numbers. This is an array of strings. And you can mix and match, as I said. Here is an array that has an integer, a number, a date, which is an object, and a string. Now, in Java, you cannot do this unless if you declare the variable, the array of type object. Then you can put whatever. But in JavaScript, you can do this. You can also have a matrix or an array of arrays. So here, the first element is an array, the second element is an array, and so on. Now, to loop through the array, the best loop is the for-of loop. But again, the arrays has a lot of very, very useful functions that you can use without even using loops. That's what I will be showing you shortly. But anyway, be aware, you're already familiar with this, you know how to do it. But this new one, this is the one I really encourage you to use, the for-of loop. The arrays in JavaScript are dynamic. You can add elements, you can remove elements, you can concatenate arrays, very, very flexible. So to add an element to an array, you use the push function. So the array name dot push, and you give a value. And that value would be placed at the end of the array. Okay? If you want to remove the last element of the array, you use pop. So there's push and pop already built in. You just call them and you get it. You can also use n shift to insert at the start of the array, the beginning of the array, or the shift to remove from the head of the array, from the beginning of the array. The most useful one in practice is push. That one is very, very heavily used, and we will heavily use it in this course. Now, the n shift and these things and pop are not heavily used. The most commonly used to remove elements from array is the splice function. Very flexible function. All you do is you say from where you want to remove, what position, and how many you want to remove. And then it goes ahead and removes them. And the ones that are removed are returned to you as another array. So in here I'm saying, here I'm going and say, go to element 1. Which one is element 1? B, because the array index starts from 0 to size minus 1. So I will go to this and say how many I want to remove? 1. So I will get B in this variable, and the rest after the splice, this is the value of the variable. Now, this is the nice thing about JavaScript. You can just copy this stuff, go here, and test it and try it out. Because you might be understanding it, but if you see it running, it's yet another experience. Yes, please.
What do you mean by how many? You said position and how many. What do you mean by how many?
No, I mean, was I referring to the index of the variable? Sorry, the index of the array?
The first one is the index.
Oh, yeah, yes, okay, yes. So the first one is the index. So which index you want to start from? And then how many elements you want to remove? You want to remove 1 element, 2, 3, 4? Starting from that element. Yep, okay. All right, good. So in here, how many we want to remove? 1. From which position? 1, okay. So, why? As I told you, JavaScript try to absorb errors. It will not. You can try it. Like once you try this stuff, all the little things that come to mind, try them so really the concepts stick in your mind very nicely. Okay, so now if I do here my array, here is the new values, B has gone, and if I do removed, I will get B. The elements that were removed, I assign them to this variable. Very, very powerful function. We will use it very, very heavily. The splice function. So the push and the splice you must know because they are frequently used. Yes, please. Remove is a function. Oh, the data type of removed? removed is an array, basically. Good, no problem. Let's ask this guy. I think it's an array. It's an object. It's an object. An array is basically an object in JavaScript. Okay. All right, so you know how to add, you know how to remove. There are many other functions, very, very useful functions. You can sort an array, you can reverse it. You can reverse it means the tail will become the head and the head will become the tail. If you have multiple arrays, you can join them into one big array. You can convert an array to a string using join and put some separator, either a comma or space or whatever. Every function here, you have an example in here. All you need to do, open the example and play with it. Okay, reverse. So the old way, you do a loop and you reverse it using a loop. You don't need to waste your time doing that. You can just do reverse. And basically, the good thing, you open this in WebStorm, right-click and run, and immediately you see the results. Play with it, change things until the concept is very, very clear in your mind. That's how you will learn. You go to the lab, you apply this to some scenarios. That's how you will learn. Yes, please. Sorry? How to add an element in a special index. Okay, many ways of doing it. No, many ways of. I think I'm just thinking loud here. One way, if you can basically splice it, you split it into two. Let's say you split it into two arrays, and then you concatenate the first part, your new values, and the last part. That's one way of doing it. There are functions to do all of this. We will put this as an example in the lab. In few lines, 1 or 2 lines, you can do all of what I said. Okay, splice, and then you concatenate. Okay, that's very rare. In practice, very rare you do that. In practice, most of the time you do push to add to the end, you splice to remove from any parts. Those two functions that are heavily used in practice. Okay, now let's move on. Now the functions that I want to spend a bit more time on them is basically the map function and the reduce function. Those are very, very useful functions that you can use to process arrays without using loops. Very useful. That's what I want you to really use. Don't use loops to process arrays. That's the power of JavaScript. It's a functional language, and it has a lot of built-in functions that are associated with lists or arrays. Now Java, of course, tries to borrow this from Java 8 onwards. So maybe you have not seen this, but if you want to really do similar things in Java, you use Java 8. But of course, the elegance and the simplicity you do it in JavaScript is really very smooth compared to Java. Although Java is starting to support these features, but not as elegant and easy to use as the JavaScript. Okay, so what I will do now, I will explain to you these 3 important functions that are heavily used when we deal with arrays. And those are the functions you will be using in your labs, in your projects, in a real-world JavaScript implementation. All right, so let's start here. I will clear this. I will just declare an array of numbers. So let's say I put here let nums equal, and basically 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so an array of 4 variables. If I do here nums, this is basically my array. Now what I want to do is I want to visit every element of the array and square it and produce another array that has the square of this array. So I'll have two arrays. One is num and one is square nums. So of course one way to do it is a loop. You will create another array, let's say call it square, and then you square each element of the first input array and you push it to the new array. That's one way of doing it. You all know how to do it. I'm not going to waste time doing it. Now don't use that anymore in JavaScript. You must use the features that come with JavaScript. The power of JavaScript, you should use it. Don't use traditional old way that you already know. So in here, whenever you want to transform an array into another array by applying some computation, immediately think of which function you should use. The map function. The map function applies some function to each element of the array and produce a new array. Okay? So which function we want to apply in this scenario? Sorry? The square function. So let's create one. Let's create a square function. So here I create function, I call it square, and here is the square function. Okay, let's try it. So it takes an input x and returns x times x. Now, let's try square of 6, 36. It's working perfectly. Now, what I want to do, I want to take this square and apply it to every element of the array and produce a new array that has, what values the new array will have? 1, 4, 9, and 16. Very good. So what I'll do here let num or square. Okay.
So from what is it feeling complete?
Because I tried this before. Okay. So just to save time. So in here, what I'm doing here, I am taking my original array and applying this square function to every element of my array. Using which method? The map method. And then the result is a new array. My original array is not affected. A new array gets produced, and that new array is the square nums. So if I check what is in square num, you see the values? These are the values there. Now, there are a couple of things going on here that might be a bit confusing, but very new, and this is the power of JavaScript. So maybe last session you thought, oh, JavaScript is just another copy-paste from Java. It's not. It's a lot of power that's not in Java. Yes, please.
Can we just say nums.map square and leave it like that without having a new item?
No, if you did that because you want to produce a new array, so you need to store the result in another variable.
You can't use an old array to, like, what I'm trying
You
to
can,
do.
if you, yeah, you can. How you will do that? Instead of creating another variable, you just put nums. Oh, sorry, without let, because I already declared it. If this is what you want, no problem. So nums now has the new values. Yes? It's no problem. But usually in functional programming, you have the input, you leave the input untouched, and you create a new output. Okay? So you leave the nums by itself, and you have the square nums, a new variable. That's what you usually do. Now, anyway, be mindful now that our num values is 1, 4, 9, 16, okay? So what I want to say here, a couple of things are going on that are very fundamental to JavaScript. What I'm doing here, what is a map? It's a function. What is square? It's a function. So what I'm doing here, I am passing a function as a parameter to another function. It might be confusing at start, but this is heavily used in JavaScript. That's what you will be doing all along. When you kind of call a function and pass it another function as a parameter. This is the power of functional programming. In a functional programming, a function is a variable. Remember the data types in JavaScript? What are the data types? Number, string, object, boolean, undefined, and function. What is the data type of square? It's a function. Here. So if I say here type of square is a function. In fact, I can assign it to another function. Is q equal square. Function can be assigned to a variable, no problem. And then basically this variable I can call it. So don't get confused. Functions are like variables in JavaScript. You can assign them to variables. You can pass them as a parameter to another function. And the usefulness is the example of a map. A map takes a function. I can pass here any other function, square root, any other function that the map will apply to each element. Yes, please.
If we say, I don't know if this is possible.
Yeah.
If we say square plus square,
As long as it is function. In here, it will not work. It has to be a function. You must pass. So a map expects as an input what? A function. Okay. All right. So, yes, please. Yes, yes. Type of SQ is a function. When you assign a variable to another variable, it does not change the type. So the type of SQ is a function. Okay. So let me just clear these guys. Yes, please. Yeah.
If we have an object and one of the attributes of this object is, for example, number.
Yeah.
Okay. And we want to apply the same method. So each object have a number.
Yeah.
They want to square each number found in each object.
Yeah, you can do that. Here, I'm giving you here examples using numbers just to get the idea across. But the list or the array could be really anything. Strings, could be objects, could be anything. We will see these more advanced scenarios as we move forward. Here, we're trying to build the foundation, on top of which, in the lab, you will apply this to some realistic scenarios to really appreciate what the power of this. Okay? But for now, just stay with the basic. Understand the foundation, then you will be able to apply it to realistic scenarios. Yes, please. What if square take multiple parameters? In this scenario, the function I pass to the map must take only one parameter. Because what the map really does, it basically visits every element and call your function and pass that element to that function. Now the element could be anything. Could be an object, could be a string, could be anything. Okay? Let's say I have a list of names and I want to make them uppercase. I can do a map and pass a function to make them uppercase. So it's not limited to integers, to numbers. You can. There are a lot of power, but not with the map. There's another function to do that. Okay. So now one way to do the map is you basically pass it a function. Let's say you don't have this function and you want to define it yourself. What I can do here, I can basically create the function on the fly. Function, it takes x, and basically returns x times x. This is, don't be scared of this. This is very, very common in JavaScript. When you pass a function, you don't need to first define it and pass its name. Just pass the function definition as a parameter. Yes? Not too scary? This is very, very normal. If you are scared of this, you cannot be JavaScript developer. This is very normal. Sorry?
In fact, it's cool. It's useful.
Wait a little bit more. This is not so cool. There is a better way of doing it. So developers, they find themselves, they are very lazy creatures. The less, the better for them. So with the new JavaScript, you don't need to put this keyword function. Just remove this function, remove this return, remove this guy, and just put an arrow function. In fact, remove also this one. That's it. This is how you should write your functions. Using the arrow, these are called arrow functions. All they do, this is my input, and this is the transformation I do to my input. That's it. If I run this, exactly the same results. Of course, because I am assigning it to num again, that's why the numbers are exploding.
Is it possible to have, like, in this shape,
Yeah.
we have more than this?
We will see. I'm just, of course. So let me show you. Remember that square function? Let me try to find it. Here is the square function. Yes? Now, a better way of writing this square function is to really do, this is the most elegant way of doing it. You declare a variable, and then you say, this is basically how you should define this function. Square, oh yeah, because it's already, no need. Okay, square 3 is 9. Okay. So don't get too confused. This is just a shortcut, because every time, because it's functional programming, everything you do function. They are sick of these functions. They get rid of all of them, and they basically take the parameter, arrow function, and put the return value. Now, if you have multiple statements, you still have to do the curly brace and do a return. But if your function has one statement, this is the most concise way of writing it. Very concise, and this is called the arrow function. This is the new way of doing functions in JavaScript, and this is the way we will do it in this course. Yes, please. Yes, but you can, very good question. You can rename it. I don't like X, I want to call my parameter A. It's up to me, no problem. It's my parameter, I can call it whatever. In here, remember, what is a function? It takes some input and returns some output. So you are basically mapping, transforming the input into output. So that's what this one goes to this transformation, and this transformation is returned. So it's very readable. This is my input, I feed it to this transformation, this computation. The result is returned to whoever calls my function. Yes, please. No problem. So I do here let sum equals x and y. And what is the transformation I will do? X plus y. That's it. This is the function. Sum 20, 30, 50. That's it. Very concise. No need for return function, all this stuff. Okay. Now, one more I will show you. So the map function, everybody understand what the map function is? It visits every element, does some transformation to it, and returns a new array. Now, sometimes you want to summarize the array into one value. We call this function the reduce function. So let's say I have my num. Here are my num values, and what I want to do with them, summarize them into one value using the sum or the product or whatever I want to do. So all I need to do is nums dot reduce, and then the reduce takes basically two values. So the previous sum and the current value. I will explain what it means. And this is sum plus current. No, just have a look. And this is the sum of my array. I will explain this. It's a bit cryptic. So what's going on here? A reduce is trying to summarize this array. So when I start, it basically declares a variable called sum and initialize it with 0. Okay? Then it will say sum is 0 and current is 1. 1 plus 0 is 1. Next time, what is in sum? 1. So 1 and the current is 256. 1 plus 256, 257. Next time, Sum is 257 plus the current is 6,561. Sum. It keeps doing like that. That's basically the idea. So this is the reduce. Of course, I could say here function, curly brace, return, but now you are familiar with the arrow function. This is my input, and this is the transformation I do to the input to produce the output. And basically, the map and the reduce, very, very powerful functions that come with arrays that liberate you from using loops. Because functional programming is more about what is known as declarative programming. You don't say how you do the computation. Kind of you say, but you don't really do it yourself. You don't do everything yourself. You just say what you want to do, and internally the function will do it. In this case, the reduce will do it for you. The reduce will do the loop for you and all the stuff. You just tell it what computation you want to do in each iteration, trying to summarize the array into one value. Yes, please. That's not very correct. It will really initialize it with the first value. Yes, yes. So what I can do here, instead I can do here previous to make it more generic. I can do here previous, and here is the multiplication. And it works. So any operation to summarize, I can use it. Addition, multiplication, division, whatever I want to do. Subtraction, whatever. Same concept. So you're right. So most likely, internally, it will initialize with the first variable, with the value of first variable. So yes, you're right. Like that was not a good explanation.
Because if you had it did initialize it with a 0.
Of course.
That will give you
0, yes.
But in this case, sum still stays the same, right?
Sorry?
In this case,
Yeah.
sums, it's still an array, it's still the same values, it hasn't changed, right?
Yes, our array is still the same. Yes.
But we have this new item here, this new number.
Yes, that I can put in another variable. Yes, yes. Basically, I did some computation on the array and produce another value. That I.
We really should be putting something like
Yeah, of course. If I want, I can do here. I can do let product, because this is the multiplication, equals, and I get product. No problem. Yeah. So give me 1 minute, please. I will just show you one last one. One last one, which is the filter. Very important. Here is the filter. I think we already have students listed here. Remember students already here? Here are students. Sorry. Students. Anyway, this is a list of objects. These are my objects. Okay. Now, I just want to know who are the students that are taking 151. You can see here there are 2 students taking 151. All I do a filter. So here, this is let CMPS 151 students equals students dot filter. And I give a condition. So here I receive a student as a parameter as I visit every element. And I say if student dot course equal CMPS 151, then I am interested to do. If it's taking 151, it will be added as an element to this new array. Okay, so this is my filter, CMPS 1. Okay, you just copy this, and basically I got 2. These 2 guys are taking CMPS 151. So this is filter. If I just want to get the first one, I can do find. There is filter, it's search through all of them. But let's say I have a list of students. I know that, and I'm looking by ID, students by ID. I know that it will return only 1. So instead of using filter, I can use find. Or I can use find index to give me where it's find data rather than the object itself. Yes, find returns one item, while filter returns an array of all the elements that meet the condition. Okay, so I hope you get the idea and get a bit of taste what JavaScript is all about. So please go through what we have covered so far, and maybe in 2 weeks' time you will see this in the lab. So you have time to really learn more and practice and get ready for the lab.